Okay. Um, Sorry, guys, we've been having a little bit of technical glitches here. But welcome. This is yet another interview in the Trauma to Trust teleseminar series. And as we have Grace MacLeod with us here, and I'm really, really honored and happy that she has managed to make the time to be with us. She will tell you a little bit more about herself as we proceed. But before, as we do in all the interviews, I want to be sure that we set the intention that this interview goes exactly where it needs to go for those of you who are listening to it, when you're listening to it, and takes you exactly to that place in your healing journey that you need to be taken to. So with that intention, Grace, thank you so much for coming here and spending this time with us. I'd like you to start by just introducing yourself to the viewers and listeners.
Okay. So thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate being part of your summit, Shri. And as way of introduction, I would say, first of all, my name is Grace MacLeod. That's not my original name. I seem to change names as my journey changes. And this one came to me in meditation. I was born Donna MacLeod and had a Sanskrit name for many, many years, which was Menka. And then that part of my identity started to change and it didn't quite fit me anymore. So I actually meditated and it took 10 years. I knew there was a name. And I waited and waited and waited and asked to the point where it was kind of like, okay, what's my name? And one day I laid down for a nap and I was waking up and I received this message: you are God's grace. By grace, your life unfolds. Now go and live it. And this is your name. And it took another 5 years for me to be willing to own it completely. I started using it in addition to my other names, but it was getting pretty long and complex. And it was quite a journey. And this is my way of introducing myself, that through all of the history and the traumas and the trials and the tribulations, this is who I was born to be a vessel for God's grace in the world. And as with all of us, there was some part of me that knew this when I was born, but I could have never named it. I knew that I loved God, and I knew that I was aching for something that I kept wanting to put into the box of woundingness, which it belonged in, but it was something much greater. So my true path now is just to walk around and be in my connection with God and allow grace to flow through me, for me, and through me to all of you. And I am a spiritual counselor and I have a private practice and I work with people all over the world, both executives and leaders, families, individuals, couples, children. But to be honest, the real job I have is to center myself each day, get out of my way, clear the debris, let the grace flow in, and then just go to the grocery store or just go for a walk and trust. I don't know if you know this, but I find people, they look at me and everywhere I go, people say, oh, you remind me of somebody, or you seem so familiar everywhere. And I've come to realize that what they're tuning into is their own light. And it's very touching to me that they want to say, oh, you're like my cousin, or you're like my aunt. And I'm like, no, I'm like you. You're seeing and feeling your own light. And it's an honor to have this as my job. My head gets in the way a lot. I think I should be doing more or being more public, but it's a beautiful path. And it really does come down to this. And I would say this is my main offering, is to support people to learn the skills and the practices to move the trauma, to transmute it, so that we really can be the vessels of love and light that we were born to be. It's natural for us to be this, and to learn to trust that, especially when we've had a hell of a ride. So
yeah. Beautiful. When Flava actually introduced it to me, one of the first things that struck me about you was your name, because I just love the word grace. And,
yes.
and it sort of just describes perfectly the relationship that I want to be in, or I want to be open to all the time.
Yeah, it's
So,
really our natural state is what I've come to realize, that I use the word God, but I don't require that by any stretch of the imagination. That is love. It's pure love. And it's given to us as a free, infinite gift. And it's kind of like all day, it's like, could you take this? Could you just please take this? But, you know, we've all been through hell, and our sense of worthiness or safety to let energy into us, especially if we've been wounded and traumatized, it's very frightening. So it takes a lifetime to learn to soften and surrender and have healthy boundaries, so that, and honestly, it's been the greatest gift of my life when it comes in and I like, me, I can have this. It's very lovely.
thank you. So with that, let's go into a little bit of your journey, and how you got to some of your woundedness and how you got from it where you are now.
Well, it's always an interesting thing to try and share about. My life seemed very middle class, very ordinary, very good in many respects. There was no overt anything. And yet, small, I was crying all the time, and anxious and scared and overwhelmed and being sent to my room all the time over nothing, so my parents said. And yet I was feeling a tremendous amount, and yet trying to shove it all down because it wasn't accepted. And yet I didn't have the language to articulate what was going on. It took decades to figure it out. But I knew that something was happening and that I was longing for something that I couldn't find in this world. So there was the pain part of it, and then there was the aching for a love that I could remember that I couldn't find here. And then at 17, my older brother, who was 19, was killed in a car accident. And the police were at our door saying to my parents, "I'm sorry, your son's been in a fatal accident." And bam. It was like, it was the catharsis. And the fascinating thing, talking about grace, my mother had found yoga 6 months before, and even had found a guru that she felt a love connection with. I was totally outside of we were middle-class Canadian Christian, and and then her eldest son was dead. And it gave her a lifeline that allowed her to go through her trauma. And she had introduced my sister and I to this yoga stuff. And we were being bathed in all of this love through these Shaktipat initiations and chanting. And we didn't know what that was. But I swear, if that hadn't happened, I don't think we would have survived my brother's death. It broke our family apart eventually. And all this that was inside of me started pouring out again. And I went to university and was trained in all of these deep, powerful practices, energetic healing practices, rebirthing, and all sorts of really intense practices. And more came out, and more came out. And I didn't have a language for it. And then I went to this yoga center, and that which I only knew to say it hurts and I feel sad and bad, I started to have a bigger perspective for it. That in fact, my soul was waking up, and these were sacred wounds. And there was the tragedy, it seemed, of my brother's death. And yet he started to come to me in dreams and say this was all purposeful. This was his service to our family to help us wake up. And we were waking up. And then my university course was training me. And then I was going to this yoga center, and I was starting to get a perspective for all this pain. And I was given one practice by our lineage of teachers that was the message was everything is integratable. No matter how bad it is, all the rape and pillage, all the death and destruction, it can all be integrated. And he gave us this breathing practice. And I discovered that it was true, that I could dare to trust everything that was in my memory bank. And it wasn't just this lifetime, it was lifetimes of stuff, and it was collective consciousness stuff. So that's one of the main things I wanted to say today, that those of us that hurt really deeply, and even if we've had a trauma, it seems like, well, why doesn't it go away now? If I've healed that trauma, how come I still hurt? Or it doesn't seem like it's just that learning that we needed a bigger context for what was happening to us helped me, I think, the most, as well as this practice, to realize we're souls that are waking back up again. And many of us took on these woundings as the wounded healers.
Yeah.
And it sounds crazy that we would do that, but there was purpose in it. So as an introduction, that's what I've learned to trust that all of that pain had a purpose. And once I learned the skills for how to work with it, it brought me to my core. It really brought me to my core. And honestly, I can say, as I practiced and practiced, it would feel like I was going to die. It would get darker and blacker and horribler and no breath almost. And I'd feel like I was going to die and I'd want to stop it. And I think that's too much. And a little bit with great helpers and teachers, I would learn to trust even there, just watch and breathe. And this light would come through. And it was me. I was like, I can't die. No, this doesn't die. Yeah. And that is what I learned to trust. That I could trust the pain, I could trust everything that was in my body memory, and I learned through experience that there was something in me that could not be destroyed. And that's where the grace came from.
Beautiful. I just recently wrote a chapter in a book called The One Word Book. And the word that came up for me when my friend asked me if I wanted to participate was trust. And the definition, I've got this written down on my desk here. The definition for trust that came up was trust is letting go, resting back, flowing with life, knowing that it's always unfolding in your favor. And part of what I've written in the chapter is, sometimes you think, how can you trust life? People like to bring up the Holocaust and all of the September 11th or all those kinds of things. And for me, it always, one of the ways I try to explain it to myself is that it takes the depths of despair actually to bring out the best, the deeper, in a sense, you go, or the harder your fall is, the higher your rise is. It takes the depths of despair of humanity for us to be able to recognize the complete polar opposite of that, which is the absolute beauty and grace that life is.
Yeah, this is the place of duality. Yeah. And in my experience, I feel like, I don't think this is unique at all, but I feel like my path is, some people would call it shamanic or an ecstatic path. It's all about energy. And that we came here to discover that death actually can't happen. It can happen to our mind, and it can break our heart to the point where we even leave our body and we come back. And yet what I've discovered is that alchemically, there's a transmutation, that at the darkest point of darkness, if we can watch, if we can be at least 1 tiny % of an observer and keep experiencing, it opens and the other side is right there. Because that is it's like light and dark are actually companions. So to agree to come to a dual planet meant to be willing to experience darkness. Now, I'd like to say that I feel like we're finishing this chapter. I feel like for many, 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 many lifetimes we came and we even sacrificed our own well-being to live in such a dark time and take it all on and be martyrs and all the horrible things that have happened in our families, to dare to come to an unconscious planet. It's a big deal. And partly how I like to help people is to help them finish their agreement, their contract to be a wounded healer, and to get beyond that so that we can be here and walk with this light and have our power back without being afraid that our heads are going to get chopped off or we're going to get burned at the stake. We can finish that story now. And to be dancing here and to be abundant and to be healthy is really what our planet needs examples of. And that's no small task. That doesn't just happen like that. It's every day getting used to, I don't have to hurt anymore. I don't have to be identified with the pain. It will come. I can transmute it. And now can I learn to embody my light?
Yeah.
And that's where I get
Yeah.
excited.
Another thing that when you were talking, it reminded me of is that there's this. So I write this blog about a myth, the Devi Mahatmyam, which I call the divine story of the grand story of the Divine Mother, and it's her. It's the actual story is a lot of war with demons, and it's all allegories. But there's one story in it in which she's sitting on this swing. She's beautiful, and the demon, one of the demons, the chief demon's messenger has come to take her away, and and she said that I've made this vow that the only person who can marry me is the person who can defeat me in battle. And he says, no, you better come with me right now because these two people want you. And so she said, what can I do? You've come with your army. I can't do anything. And so he rushes towards her, and she just stands up, and she just stands up, squares her shoulders, her feet are planted on the ground, and she's open. And in a certain sense, she's welcoming in. She's not afraid because she's completely in her power.
Right.
And I find that such a beautiful image, such a
Absolutely.
beautiful way to, especially for our daughters, to be taught to embody their light in a certain sense.
And to be powerful, and powerful with their vulnerability, with our intuition, with our profound emotions. One of the most important things, Sri, that I learned was I had to dare to trust my emotions, because I'm an empath, so I emote all over everything, and I'm an energy sensitive, so I feel everything. And to live in a family and in a world that was in denial, that didn't know that things were going on, and that was when I shifted, when my low self-esteem and my self-doubt and my self-hate really started to heal, was when I made a commitment to trust what I was experiencing. It's like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know why I feel angry. I don't know why I feel like it's unsafe in this room. But if there's one thing I'm going to depend on, it's that I can trust my own experience, and I can get to the bottom of it. And I can figure out if it's mine or if it's yours or it's some energies coming from wherever. And that's what gave me my power back. We're so filled with this wisdom that we can know from our own experience, especially as women, and that will guide us when we clear out the friction around it, that we can get our power back. And yet it can be both a mighty, fierce power like Kali, but it can be a soft, embracing, loving power. And it's a big, big part of what my path has been, is helping to heal the feminine for myself, from my mother's lineage and all the lineage that's coming. And then for the men, to help them to know what it means to be the conscious masculine and in relationship to that. So I'm thrilled. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm ready to be out of here. I'm done. I've been around for a long time. I've done my part. Can I just go home? But we're on the brink of so much incredible quantum shifting. And like you said, the young ones that are owning it now, the little ones that came in already lit it up, they're my buddies. And then the young girls that are singing and dancing and owning their power. It's just beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So just to take us back to this, I think what you said was so profound, that learning to trust your own feelings, and particularly when somebody is going through a traumatic event where you almost feel that your breath has been taken away.
Yes.
There are no shoulds. There is no you should behave in this way, or you should be strong, or you just be who you are, feel everything that you're feeling, and trust that. And I think that's such a beautiful way to live through that time when you're experiencing that.
And if I could speak to that, this core practice that I was given, I call it touch of grace, because to me, it takes me from the traumatized state back into the place where I can experience the flow. And it has 5 elements to it. And one is the willingness to experience everything and then not hold our breath, but to breathe and to witness. But the other one is to put ourselves in a container, which is the watching. If I can watch and then experience. I mean, I never was incested. I never was raped, but I went through about 4 years where I was curled over in a ball and shaking and throbbing and hurting in every cell. And I was like, I feel raped. I feel raped. And I went back through the history and psychics, no, but it was the collective unconscious. And I had agreed to experience it and help move some of it through. So that was a hard one to trust because logic didn't prove it. History didn't prove it. But I learned that if I could watch and breathe and stay present, that the amount of energy that wanted to move through me was like volcanoes erupting. And I had to have a safe enough container. And sometimes that means we need another person to help ground us so that we can go through as much as is in there. And you learn to build up your tolerance for how much wants to come through. So I would say, yes, feel everything in a safe container of your own observation and witnessing, and a safe room, a safe person, so that you can let go of the ego protection and let yourself have the experience you need to have. And it will take you to integration. It just will. And then, excuse me, I know these are long answers, but my experience is that when I would go through that wave and it would feel like Niagara Falls, but the container was strong enough, I'd get through and then things would start to settle and like knowing. I know this. I know what this is. This is the feminine wound from thousands of lifetimes. I'm like, that's a big thing to know. But by then I'm like, yes. And my mind was like, well, you're crazy. Nobody goes through that kind of stuff. I'd think, no, I know this. And when we get to that state of knowing, we resolve. And then the power just drops right in. And then I noticed that I would know what to do. I need to go have a conversation with my father, or I need to stop talking to that person. I need to leave that job. And I could act on it because I'd integrated the energy, I'd gotten my knowing, and then I could trust the guidance that was coming. And so often we're like, why can't I do it? Why can't I move on from the marriage? Why can't I let go of this? I think it's because we haven't done the energy integration work. We haven't shifted to a place where we know and where we're really guided.
That's so interesting because just last week my daughter was here and she's just anyway, we were having a deep conversation and I knew that the way I had the conversation with her would not be what my husband would want me to have with her.
Yes.
But at some point, so we'd had the conversation. This was late night, and then in the morning, we were going somewhere. I got into the car with my husband, and just as I was getting in, this thing came into me which said, "I know, and I know that I know," you know, and that's become a mantra for me now.
Yes.
It's just, so the fact that you talked about that right now is almost like
very confirmation. Yes. And I went to my spiritual teacher. I lived at this yoga center, Kripalu Yoga Center in Massachusetts. And I actually lived there for 10 years. That's the one that my mom got involved in. And I visited there for 5 years. And then I lived the full ashram life for 10 years and was a renunciate and did seva and did the yoga practices every day and worked there. And then it was time to leave. And my guidance had become so strong inside from doing these practices, and it wasn't aligning with the teacher's guidance anymore. And I was getting this message, you need to go now. This has been your church. You don't need to be doing this anymore. You need to be out in the world. And I'm like, but this is my whole world and I love this place, but something's off. I know it's off. And I went to him and I said, but how do I know? And he said this beautiful thing to me, which I thank him for all the time. And my name was Menka at the time. He said, Menka, the nature of knowing is that you know, and not anyone, not God, not guru, not parents, not anybody can validate your knowing. If you know it, it's from inside and it's yours. And it was like, here, I'm asking for permission to know what I know. And he gave me the right answer. He said, don't come to me.
Yeah.
And it was the right thing for him to say, because my knowing was that he was no longer my teacher.
Yeah.
And that I needed to trust myself and be my own connection to God. So that was, I think that was a very powerful thing.
So I just wanted to just reiterate a couple of things that he said. One is that just in the last segment when we were talking about, you talked about it's good for people to feel everything that they're feeling, but that they need a safe container.
Yes.
Which could be their own presence, or they might need someone who they trust who can hold them through this.
Yeah.
And one of the intentions of this summit is to provide that safe container. And whether you find it through the Facebook group or whether you find it through one of the, what I'm calling life experts who are speaking to us through the summit, that definitely is the intention. So we are hoping that this creates that safe container for you to experience that.
May I mention something there, Sri?
Yeah.
What I know for myself is that I had to be with people who had energetically gone through what I needed to go through and be living, breathing examples. I mean, I could read it in books, I could hear people talking about it, but when we embody, it's like, I've lived through so much now, there's nothing that scares me. I mean, I get scared about having to tell somebody the truth one day, but in terms of my internal experiences, I've been through it all. And so I can sit with someone and it's like their experience doesn't frighten me. And so I have that confidence. And that's often the very thing we can't give ourselves, because where we need to go, we're not sure we'll be okay. And to have someone that is embodied what we need to experience, that's sometimes, so whether it's in these interviews or in your Facebook page, if there's a collection of people that it's like, yes, we're all together, we're going there together. Some of us have even been there. We can offer our hand. That's what, to me, creates the safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing that's a person who has been through it can do when they're holding you. What they're showing you is that you can experience it and not disintegrate.
That's right.
Because
I'm sitting here upright, conscious, not drooling. I didn't die. And matter of fact, I'm even brighter and lighter and happier than I was beforehand. And we all need that. It's the same as a child that's learning to walk. You need to see people walking and not always falling down. Yeah. So with our spiritual work and our healing work, we need to see models of people that have really walked the talk and not just talk about it.
So we are at the point where now if you can, I think you've talked about some of the practices that and so if you can sort of take our viewers through some of the people you've helped and sort of real life stories where you can talk to them about, that would be great.
I just mention a few other of the practices. Quite often, I sort of alluded to it at the beginning, when I work with people and they're breathing and they're reporting their experience and they'll say, I don't know what this is, or I don't know why it's there. And I will say, rather than be up here and trying to figure it out, I use this practice of being in relationship with the experience. So we go in and we ask it, who are you? What are you? What's your purpose here? Do you have a name? And I teach people how to relate to energetic experiences that quite often it could be, it's just a quaking and a shaking. And I will, well, then ask it what it's here for. And all of a sudden it'll be a memory, or it'll be a subpart, a child or a forgotten piece. Sometimes it's archetypic, symbolic, like visitors. This is the angel side of myself, or there's somebody here that wants to talk to me. So being able to directly dialogue and engage with what's happening will reveal stuff that we can't get, even if we just breathe and pay attention and breathe and pay attention. So there's an added piece that I'm a relationship person. I relate to everything through relatedness. So that's been very, very helpful for people to be guided to ask, what is this? And describe it. And does it have something to say to you? So I use that a lot in my work with people. Yeah. The other piece of that is quite often it's spirit. It feels like a pressure in the chest and I can't breathe, and it's been there for 20 years and I don't know if I have asthma or if I have a heart condition. And then I'll ask what it is. And quite often it's spirit coming. Let me in, open your heart. I know you've got your protection there, but this is safe. And teaching people to discern what's a safe energy that wants, and especially those of us that have been abused, what's not. And only that which is good for me is allowed in now. And this is some of the most fulfilling work is, it's something that loves me. It wants to come in and take care of me. And to let that happen is delightful. And then teaching people how to really have their own guidance and connection with spirit. That's really the core of what I'm about, is helping us all rebuild that's which is natural, that we have this communion with spirit, whatever you call that wants to work with us daily. And teaching people daily practices for access, whether it's through visions or auditory or kinesthetic or dreams. I do a lot of shamanic journeying with people so that they can get to that realm and not feel like it's too weird. Or so it's a very eclectic toolkit that I have. One other just piece, I work a lot with people around their actual relationships. So once we learn to be embodied and empowered, now how do I go to my husband? How do I go to my parent? How do I go to my friend? How do I go to my boss? And use this in really conscious dialogue. I'm a real stickler for, we can learn to be really clear in our communications and empowered. So many of us get stuck when it's time to be relationships. And so.
Yeah, beautiful. So give us some examples of people.
One of the most delightful, I've been doing this for almost 40 years, so there's a long line of powerful stories of people that have been through profound trauma, that in fact, as they've healed cancer, they've healed heart disease. It's amazing to me how much of it is psychic and emotional, and once it heals. But more recently, I worked with a woman about 10 years ago, and she came for her own healing that had a lot to do with her relationship with her mother. Then she brought her 21-year-old daughter to me, who was a dancer and was ending up in emergency because her back kept going out, and they were drugging her with morphine. And she came and worked with me, and it was all her emotions about her mother and about her relationship with herself and her own self-doubt and her own self-loathing. So we worked together. Then I worked with the mother and daughter together. Then the wife came back and said, I need my husband to come. And he was this big, high-powered executive. He's like, no way, I'm not going there. And we waited for him for about a year. And then the wife finally put her foot down and said, if you don't go see Grace, I'm done. And that took her a year she said, this is like, I have to have this happen. And he came, bless his heart, and worked in the most beautiful way, working with men who are up in their big, powerful egos and helping them get into their heart. And he was beautiful and did really big work. Their marriage improved. They have 5 children. All of the children have come now. Now some of them have been married. Some of the spouses are coming, and now they're having babies. To get to work with a whole family system and help them evolve, and it's not been perfect by any stretch of the imagination, into a more conscious version. It's such a beautiful thing. So
absolutely. And imagine the ripple effects of that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That they're not having to pass down to the next generation the wounding that's been coming from generation to generation. And then just a real brief, one other example. The other group that I feel very called to work with is the healers and the teachers that are very much out in the world, very, very big practices of teaching and healing. And yet, where do they go when it's their turn to let down and to be vulnerable and have their needs met? So I sort of work in the background and have a beautiful space that people come to, and just to offer a place of being able to witness, I see you, I see the power of your calling, and I want to create a safe space for you to be nurtured as well. So
beautiful. So we're at 5:42. Let's go and talk. You've talked a lot about the kind of work that you do. I think you also have a gift, a free gift for the viewers and listeners.
Yes, anyone that feels drawn to connect and get to know me better, you offer a half-hour free interview consultation where we just talk on the phone, or we can do a video call, and just to really feel if we're a good match for each other. And I'll listen and hear what your needs are and see if I can articulate how I would work with you. So absolutely, if you're interested, you're welcome to call, no charge. And we're just, because it doesn't, if we're not a match, I'd rather help you find who can help you. And if we are a match, let's find out without you being worried about it costing anything. And then I have discounted programs. If you do decide you want to work with me, I have ways that I can discount the costs so that it's more manageable.
Do you just do one-on-one coaching mostly, or do you do
mostly and small groups, like I said, family members. I have done huge groups in the past. I used to teach programs of 100 people. If there was an interest in a group, I would definitely do one. It hasn't been what I've been doing lately, but it changes over time. So
awesome. So we've covered a lot of ground, Grace, a lot of really deep work, and another, I had interviewed somebody else whose interview just went out, and one of the things she talked about was that the interview is full of gems, and so you really need to listen to it again and again. And I would really urge those of you who are listening to Grace right now to recognize that there is a lot of wealth in this. You know, we've just been talking for about 44 minutes. Even that, there was a huge amount of information, guidance here for you. So make sure that you listen to it again and again and again, because there is a lot that you can gain from it. So I just wanted to let you just talk freely for the next however long you needed to go where you think this needs to go, and take it. Yeah.
So it's two ends of the spectrum. And the one is that I feel like the greatest wound in our world is that we've lost our love and acceptance for ourselves. The self has been so wounded, and the doubt and the self-rejection and the turning against ourselves that is so rampant in this world is what I came in experiencing. And it didn't make any sense because the externals seemed fine. So my deepest prayer and my deepest work was I had to find that. I had to find that way of accepting myself and learning to nurture and give to myself, because I'm a natural born teacher and healer. It's easy for me to give it to others. And I dedicated 20 years of my life to that. It doesn't have to take that long, I don't believe anymore. I think we've speeded things up, but I'm glad I worked that hard on it. And to see that it's gone to this other place now, that I can claim that I'm a vessel for love. And that doesn't mean I'm perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't have to be anymore. And that I'm really here to allow love to flow through me, for me and for others. That journey is a miracle to me when I know where I started all those years ago, crying myself to sleep out of self-hate, to knowing and remembering that I'm born to be God's emissary in the world. So I want that for everyone on this planet, that no matter how bad it hurts, how much doubt there is, we really can find that place where we really do love ourselves and we can be what we were born to be. So that's the one thing. And then the other one is that I just can see that our planet is now welcoming children, babies that I call the star children. And I know I'm one. I know I came from somewhere else. I haven't lost my memories of that place. It's taken me my whole life to be willing to be a God being in this world and to accept that power of divinity that we have, and these little ones that are coming in without the wound. And they're really ready. I mean, the intermediate ones are coming in with the poor brains that are mixed up and the sensitivities and health, but they're brilliant inside. And for those of us that have done our work, to turn around and continue to offer our hand to those that are carrying the wound, but to offer our hand to these little ones to say, come on, let me help you. You're God's incarnate. Take the reins, even if you're 2 years old, and we will guide you. We will guide you to be as brilliant, and you don't have to go through this great big long 20, 30, 40 year slogging through the woundedness. You can have your wings now, and I will see you, and I will recognize you and welcome you, whether you're 80 or 2. And that excites me no end. I feel like I've been waiting for them, because to get to come now and to be supported by us, to have that kind of power and wisdom now, is very, very important. So,
beautiful. So one of the things that struck me when you were talking was that I've called this trauma to trust, and for many people, and even in my opt-in, I talk about, if you've been through an incident where, like I said, your breath's been taken away, or you feel as if the ground's gone away from under your feet. But when you were talking, the other aspect of trauma is that it need not be a sudden one-day event.
Exactly.
It's an event of this constant hate, this constant self-hate that we all carry around. And that is actually the biggest trauma.
It is, because it shuts down our energy and our light. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to speak about that, because the things that have been done unto us are travesties, and I've experienced the memories of that. But the worst one is when we injure ourselves. So,
and just so the viewers know, this is again more validation for me, because
I just lost the audio. I just lost you. Can you say that again, please? I just lost the audio.
So I was just saying that this is validation for me, because one of the things that has come to me through my writing of the blog and through my practice is the development of the coaching practice that I call radical self-acceptance.
Exactly.
and that is what is needed, because it's when you are completely at home with yourself, then there is nothing, then what is mirrored back to you is that you're able to open yourself up.
That's right. And you get very, very strong discernment about who, frankly, is worthy of hanging out with you and who to let go of. And so it starts here for sure.
So that's a beautiful, beautiful conversation, Grace. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
You found it great as well. So
this is my passion. It's been my entire life, and it's actually time. As I mentioned, I was out in a public domain for a long time when I was very young, and then I worked in the background a lot, and even working with the Earth's energy grid a lot. And now I'm being asked to be more known again, and that there's people that need what I have. So every day I pray, may those that are looking for me find me as I'm looking for you. So I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me and giving me this platform to share and to invite. And it's as much, I need this as much as your offerings to others. So thank you.
Thank you. And for the viewers, you'll get the email, you'll have the links to everything in the email and in the Facebook group. And we will be back with yet another interview soon.
Can I just mention my website and how do people contact me? It's just my name. It's www.gracemacleod.com. MacLeod is spelled MacLeod. So gracemacleod.com, and I'm on Facebook as Grace MacLeod, and also Graceful Living Coaching Classes and Retreats. I have 2 pages, and it's all on my website, and my phone number's there and everything.
And all of that will be in the email.
Great. Okay. Sorry, I didn't realize that. Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for this. I appreciate it. Blessings to everyone. May you have a little grace in your life today and every day.